What kind of driver would crash a bus into a building? The scene left the rescue team speechless. 2 hours earlier, Jack boarded the bus as usual and politely greeted the driver. Immediately after, Charlie walked onto the bus and sat directly in the priority seating reserved for the elderly, disabled, or infirm. Jack noticed this and asked Charlie to move. Charlie replied that he would give up his seat if needed. Meanwhile, 20 kilometers away, hydraulic engineer Claude discovered abnormal cracks in the reservoir dam during routine inspection. Accelerated by seismic activity, the fissures rapidly widened, culminating in a catastrophic breach. 15 billion gallons of floodwaters surged forth in an instant. At the same moment, mountain biker Lucy raced along a winding mountain road. A violent tremor made her halt alertly. The road was instantly blocked by boulders tumbling down from the mountain peak. Lucy instantly recognized the danger. As she turned, a tidal wave of floodwaters surged toward her. Lucy quickly dialed for help, but before she could finish the call, the floodwaters completely engulfed her. The flood then rapidly engulfed the city, swallowing every village in its path. Jack, aboard a bus, watched as the flood surged toward them. Towering waves swept through the streets at astonishing speed, lifting the entire vehicle and hurling it onto a building. The command center confirmed the situation through footage. No one could comprehend how the vehicle remained suspended in midair. When the rescue team arrived, the bus was wedged between the building's structure. They immediately launched the rescue operation. Passengers on the bus grew agitated at the sight of rescuers, causing the vehicle to shake violently and risk falling at any moment. The rescue team leader shouted for passengers to remain still while roof-based team members secured ropes and began rappelling down for the rescue. A frightened Jack pointed out to the rescue team that a female passenger was seriously injured. Meanwhile, Charlie had glass shards embedded in his leg. Rescue personnel instructed him not to move, but Charlie pulled the glass out directly, causing blood to gush out. In the critical moment, Jack swiftly unbuckled his seatbelt and tightly wrapped it around Charlie's leg, successfully stopping the bleeding. Subsequently, the rooftop team successfully descended onto the train roof and worked with their teammates above to stabilize the vehicle. At this point, they discovered someone trapped beneath the train. The team immediately went to investigate. Fortunately, the man was still breathing but pinned under heavy debris. Unable to free himself, they decided to evacuate the passengers first. Before leaving, Charlie thanked Jack. Jack reminded him not to occupy priority seats in the future. Charlie solemnly promised. The critically injured woman required surgical intervention within 20 minutes. The rescue team carried her out of the cabin and organized the evacuation of rear passengers. However, Jack, who had Asperger's syndrome, began experiencing an emotional breakdown. The rescue team leader patiently calmed him, but the man trapped under the vehicle's condition continued to deteriorate. They had to act immediately. The rooftop team prepared to tilt the vehicle 30 degrees to free the trapped casualty. The captain led Jack to evacuate, but Jack hesitated and shrank back. The captain removed his mask, gripped Jack's hand, and simultaneously issued the operation command. As the machinery activated, the bus slowly tilted. Simultaneously, the team members worked together to drag the man trapped under the bus out, quickly secured him to a stretcher, and swiftly returned the bus to its upright position. Just as everyone was rescued, a gas leak erupted in the bus. The captain sensed danger. Buck rushed in, ordering them to evacuate immediately. The next second, the explosion occurred. Buck crawled back with great effort, repeatedly calling out the captain's name. He saw the captain shielding Jack with his body. Miraculously, both men were unharmed. Meanwhile, Lucy regained consciousness trapped in a drainage pipe, surrounded by pitch-black darkness. She contacted 911 operator Maddie via phone, trying to pinpoint her location. The only identifiable mark was a faint SW stamped on the pipe. With her colleagues' help, Maddie accessed the city's underground storm drain electronic map, red indicating closed sections, green open. To get an exact location, Lucy needed to reach a junction box and activate the positioning signal by flipping a switch. Gritting her teeth through leg pain, Lucy struggled toward the junction box only to find the access panel securely locked. Prompted by the dispatcher, she suddenly remembered the repair tools she carried. After multiple failed attempts, Lucy finally broke down, leaning against the wall and sobbing uncontrollably. Medi and supervisor Josh kept encouraging her, reigniting Lucy's fierce will to survive. With sheer determination, she finally smashed the lock, opened the junction box, and decisively pressed the positioning switch. Tracking the signal, the technician immediately pinpointed her exact coordinates. When firefighters Buck and Hunter rushed to the scene, Lucy had already been swept by the torrent to the river mouth. Lucy, having narrowly escaped death, couldn't believe the floodwaters had carried her miles from the mountains straight to the coastline. On the other side of the city, Danger was spreading. Mysterious pools of water appeared on the road. 40-year-old Robert stepped into the water, and the next moment, everyone was stunned. At that moment, Athena's 18-year-old daughter Emily panicked and tried to get out of the car. Athena screamed to stop her, but the distance was too great. Emily couldn't hear clearly and mistakenly thought her mother was telling her to return to the car to rescue people, so she turned back. This kindness unexpectedly saved her life. It turned out Athena had been taking her daughter for a drive when they unexpectedly encountered a chain reaction car accident. Fortunately, the airbags protected both mother and daughter. When Athena climbed out of the driver's seat, she discovered the situation was worse than imagined. A fatigued driver had crashed into a utility pole, causing chaos. To prevent further accidents, Athena identified herself as a police officer and ordered everyone to evacuate the scene. As bystanders dialed emergency services, the operator stated no rescue teams were available. Athena's daughter Emily discovered the truth via her phone. A dam breach had diverted all city rescue resources. Athena resolved to organize a community rescue effort, but few responded. Some were still arguing over accident compensation.
You rear-ended me! It's a pileup!
Then Athena spotted a woman with a neck injury in the car. She urgently instructed Emily to apply pressure to the wound while she returned to the vehicle for the medical kit. Just then, water surged onto the street through the drainage system. As Athena was about to warn everyone, the man demanding compensation stepped into the floodwater and was electrocuted instantly. Bystanders contacted the emergency center again. Athena explained that fallen high-voltage wires had electrified the entire street. The dispatcher stated the repair crew would take an hour to arrive. Athena immediately contacted her colleagues to dispatch a patrol car for backup. Finally, the repair workers arrived under police escort. After the power was cut, the fire truck also reached the scene. Just as Athena thought they could begin rescue efforts, the injured woman collapsed in Emily's arms, unable to accept someone dying before her eyes. Emily kept talking to the victim.
Okay, no offense, but I never want to have to meet them and tell them how you died in my arms. Nobody in this car's dying. Not today. I tried to keep her awake. I really tried, Mom.
Athena knew her daughter had done everything possible. Just as she led Emily away, the victim on the stretcher suddenly regained a heartbeat. Watching Emily weep with joy, Athena whispered to her daughter, "People aren't born strong. They grow through stumbling and falling." The aftermath of the earthquake gradually faded, yet the dramatic rescues never ceased. Jennifer was performing on the harmonica when she nearly disfigured herself. To attract more spectators, she stuffed the entire harmonica into her mouth. While it drew a large crowd, her lip nearly split open. Her partner frantically dialed 911. Paramedics arrived. Knowing objects can easily get lodged but are incredibly difficult to remove. By then, Jennifer's cheek tissue had swollen. She should have been taken to the hospital, but at the mention of a hospital, both turned pale. She urgently asked if it could be handled on site. In the U.S., ambulance services start at $1,200, an exorbitant cost many can't afford. Fortunately, the paramedics understood and opted against hospitalization. Instead, they applied copious amounts of Vaseline around her lips, preparing for on-site treatment. The woman trembled with anxiety while her partner began live streaming. The paramedics silently shook their heads. People would do anything for attention these days. Yet instead of stopping the filming, she warned viewers while retrieving the harmonica. This is the consequence of blindly chasing viral fame. Danger lurks at every turn.
TikTok will ruin your life.
Fortunately, the harmonica was safely removed. May this experience teach them that while pursuing fame is understandable, it should never come at the cost of life and safety. That day, thrill-seeker Mark insisted on tailgating a fire truck to gain passage. Firefighter Herman grew frantic. Following so closely meant catastrophic consequences if the truck braked suddenly. He immediately sounded his horn to warn the vehicle behind to maintain distance. Instead, the driver accelerated recklessly, attempting to overtake. Hellman reluctantly contacted traffic police to have the reckless driver educated by authorities. Unexpectedly, disaster struck. Two vehicles ahead nearly collided. The fire truck slammed on brakes, causing the rear vehicle to rear-end it uncontrollably and crash into parked cars. Witnessing the entire sequence, Hellman seethed with rage. Due to the sudden accident, the fire department had to suspend their original mission to prioritize rescuing this driver who was courting disaster. Through the window, he saw the young driver, Mark, trapped inside a severely mangled vehicle with doors jammed shut. With existing tools ineffective for extrication, Herman urgently requested headquarters dispatch a rescue vehicle. Only then did Mark feel true terror. But plans changed rapidly. Firefighters discovered fuel leaking from the vehicle, a critical situation demanding immediate action. Herman resolved to risk the rescue. His teammates were stunned, pleading with him, this vehicle could ignite at any moment. Approaching now is suicide. Herman resolutely crawled into the cabin, instructing his team to immediately spray him with water from the fire hose if flames erupted. Fortunately, the front end wasn't completely crushed, allowing a relatively smooth rescue. The team quickly extracted Mark from the vehicle. Just as Herman was about to escape, another unexpected incident occurred. Herman had barely escaped danger, but Mark's condition was critical. The collision had caused a flail chest, requiring immediate intubation to maintain his breathing. But Mark was now unconscious, and the tube's contact with his throat triggered a gag reflex. The paramedic grew desperate. Continued obstruction could cause suffocation. To save his life, she administered a double dose of midazolam to relax his muscles, finally securing the life-saving tube. Mark survived by the skin of his teeth. Herman breathed a sigh of relief, hoping this young man, roughly the same age as Herman's child, would learn his lesson and obey traffic rules from now on. The camera cuts to a car where Susan and her mother are arguing. The mother turns to confront her daughter, completely forgetting the vehicle is speeding down the highway. This dangerous behavior soon brings disastrous consequences. Firefighters arrived swiftly after the emergency call, but strangely, it wasn't the mother and daughter needing rescue. Instead, it was a man whose arm had been bitten by a shark. How could a shark appear on a highway, and why did it bite his arm? Buck raised his tools to deal with the shark, but the man urgently stopped him. It turned out this man was an animal conservationist. This tiger shark was precisely the one they intended to release. During transport, an accident occurred. To prevent the tiger shark from dehydrating and dying, they continuously poured water on it. As a result, the man's arm was accidentally bitten. Despite excruciating pain, he remained steadfast in his conviction, preferring injury to harming the shark. Firefighters had no choice but to use tools to pry open the shark's jaws. Even lying on the stretcher, the man remained concerned about the shark's safety. Moved by their sincerity, the firefighters helped the man fulfill his wish. The captain called in a fire truck to hoist the shark. The shark seemed to understand the human's intentions, quietly allowing itself to be transported by the truck to the nearest beach. As the shark submerged into the sea, everyone silently wished it well. In that moment, compassion transcended species boundaries. The tiger shark resurfaced, as if comprehending human goodwill. It swam slowly toward the deep sea without attacking the people in the water. This scene evoked memories of the brutal dolphin hunts in certain regions. We believe such acts that defy natural ethics will ultimately face consequences. On the other side of the city, another high-altitude life-or-death rescue was just beginning. 60-year-old Elizabeth took her daughter skydiving. Hearing the altitude of 15,000 feet, her daughter was terrified. It was her first skydive, but Elizabeth insisted on fulfilling her dream. She told her daughter, "Life is short. If not now, then when?" They boarded the plane with their instructor. Upon reaching the designated altitude, the door slowly opened. Her daughter was terrified. Just then, the plane lurched violently. The instructor unexpectedly fell and lost consciousness. Elizabeth couldn't grab him. He plummeted straight down. Fortunately, his parachute caught on the cabin, leaving him dangling and swaying mid-air. Elizabeth urgently called 911. Rescue teams rushed to the scene, but they now faced the challenge of an aerial rescue. The team leader contacted the pilot, requesting a headwind flight while simultaneously lowering altitude. They decided to attempt a high-altitude rescue. Though the operation was extremely difficult, the pilot began descending, gradually approaching the rescue vehicle. Crew members reached out to catch him, but the plane's speed proved too high, causing the first attempt to fail. The captain ordered continued descent. The pilot warned altitude was critical. Only one final chance remained. The plane must land immediately. On the second attempt, 2 crew members stood on the vehicle's roof. As the plane swept past, they swiftly released their safety latches and successfully rescued the instructor. The aircraft safely departed the scene. This rescue was heart-stopping. Watching the instructor being taken to the hospital, the mother and daughter were still shaken. The daughter trembled, saying she would never skydive again in her life. That day, a couple was preparing to do something on the balcony when Linda suddenly lost her balance and fell from the rooftop. Fortunately, Linda grabbed an advertising sign and hung suspended in midair. Struggling, the fire department arrived swiftly. Due to the extreme height, both the aerial ladder and airbag rescue systems were ineffective. The rescue team split into 3 groups. Medic Lucy and Han went to the lower floor to remove windows for a reception point. Robbie evacuated people on the ground while Buck rappelled down from the roof to perform the rescue. Just as the safety rope was about to secure Linda, The advertising sign support cable snapped. Linda screamed again as she plummeted. Lucy darted out the window to catch the falling woman. Hen immediately helped pull both back inside. Even the screenwriter mocked this through Hen's lines: "If this rescue was a miracle." The next one was pure absurdity. That day, female rider Mary occupied the lane during a night ride. Refusing to yield, the pickup driver chose to accelerate and overtake. Over a speed bump, the violent jolt caused the vehicle's signboard to shake loose, striking Mary directly. Firefighters arrived after Hen's assessment. Though her heart was unharmed, her aorta was damaged. The signboard's sharp edge risked secondary injury during transport, yet immediate removal would trigger massive bleeding. Han then proposed an innovative solution, performing a resuscitative aortic balloon occlusion. A microballoon was inserted through the femoral artery and inflated to create occlusion and stabilize blood pressure. 3 people collaborated to remove the sign. Han immediately administered emergency care. Once Mary's condition stabilized, she still urged Athena to track down the pickup truck. Days later, Athena encountered the pair stealing road signs during patrol. One was struck by a vehicle while fleeing, suffering ruptured internal organs and multiple fractures. Though firefighters saved his life, he was left permanently disabled. Surprisingly, their motive was gathering props for a game.
You think because you're young that you're invincible? You're not. Is he gonna be okay? It's out of our hands.
Meanwhile, a girl screamed for help, fearing she'd killed her sister. Firefighters entered to find the younger sister motionless on the floor, her upper body completely encased in plaster. It turned out the older sister, needing a human model for her sculpture exam, had persuaded her sister to pose. She aimed to create a realistic bust but forgot to apply barrier oil. Once set, the plaster fused tightly to her skin. Firefighters gently tapped the plaster with a chisel. The girl winced in pain, prompting the paramedic to stop. She then complained of feeling hot. Paramedic Hung immediately recognized the signs. Prolonged contact with sodium hydroxide in the plaster had caused chemical burns. They had to remove the plaster immediately. Fortunately, the experienced firefighters submerged the girl in water to soften the plaster slightly. They then drilled small holes into the surface and injected lubricating oil into them to help separate the plaster. The younger sister said she never wanted to attend art school, much less be a nude model. But whenever her sister asked, she never knew how to refuse. This time, she resolved to learn how to say no from now on. Meanwhile, the firefighters continued their work. They cut cracks into the plaster's surface and gently pried it open with a chisel, finally peeling the plaster off completely. Seeing her sister unharmed, the older sister felt immense relief but suddenly asked if they could do it again. The firefighters were utterly shocked.
My project's due tomorrow. Half my grade is writing on it. You're cool with it, right, Steph?
Yeah, sure.
Little Jack dialed 911 3 times in a row. Though there was no fire at all in the house, firefighters rushed to the scene. His father apologized profusely, explaining it was a childish prank. But firefighter Kelly noticed little Jack's mother communicating with him in sign language. Coincidentally, Kelly knew sign language. Through gestures, he learned little Jack had made the false fire calls to protect his mother, who was suffering from domestic violence. Kelly used the pretext of checking for gas poisoning to lead the mother and son to a corner for a private conversation. He directly asked via sign language if she was experiencing domestic violence. Little Jack's mother initially tried to cover it up, but little Jack decisively revealed the truth, pointing out that his stepfather had been abusing him for a long time and the violence was escalating. Little Jack's mother finally confessed she had called the police for help, but authorities later dismissed her report as an overreaction and took no action. Little Jack chose to call the fire department because firefighters always arrived quickly and could intervene to stop the violence. Kelly wrestled internally. Though domestic violence wasn't within a firefighter's jurisdiction, he couldn't stand by and do nothing. He had his partner James distract the stepfather, using a fake gas inspection to buy time. Meanwhile, he persuaded little Jack's mother to confront her situation, emphasizing that tolerating abuse would only condemn her child to a life of fear. Little Jack's mother finally resolved to flee. As she packed her son's belongings, James successfully distracted the stepfather and stepmother. The mother hurriedly departed with the luggage. The stepfather, noticing the absence, erupted in furious accusations.
Fighters, don't you have actual fires to be fighting? Why do you have to come to my home and start this crap?
Simultaneously, a fire broke out in his residence. The stepfather stubbornly insisted little Jack was responsible. Firefighters quickly contained the blaze, but the stepfather grew even more furious, convinced it was arson. The team couldn't help but suspect Kelly.
You start that fire?
No, there must have been a candle going or something. But I swear I might have.
Kelly secretly rejoiced at this divine opportunity. Under the pretext of medical examination, he transferred the mother and son to the home of a solitary elderly woman. The elderly woman warmly welcomed them, and little Jack finally showed a relieved smile. The woman expressed endless gratitude to Kelly. At that moment, Kelly signed to her, "The matches in your pocket must be flushed down the toilet. Shower immediately and scrub thoroughly with soap. Destroy all worn clothing." It turned out the fire had been set by little Jack's mother to escape. Kelly had noticed but kept silent, guiding her to erase all evidence. So, as a firefighter, do you think Kelly's act of shielding an arsonist was right? John scooped up the ashes to bid farewell to his friend by the river. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew all the ashes back into his face. He inhaled the ashes, choked, and collapsed. The dispatch center received the emergency call, immediately dispatched an ambulance team, and provided real-time guidance to Martin at the scene. Grace calmly directed Martin over the phone to lift John, turn him onto his left side, and place her ear close to his mouth to check for breathing. Martin felt faint breath, as if choked. When Martin tried to pat his back, Grace immediately stopped him, explaining this would push the ashes deeper into his bronchi. Grace calmed Martin and suggested a hot compress method. Martin found a towel and, following Grace's instructions, heated it with his car's exhaust pipe. As the steaming towel pressed against John's chest, he soon coughed up carbon-like viscous material. Yet John's first words after breathing resumed were to tease Martin. Another man faced worse luck, struck unconscious by lightning while golfing. Fortunately, his playing partner was the fire chief. Through timely CPR, he was saved.